Welcome to Author's Tales, where we go beyond the words and into the heart of the storyteller.
Every book holds a story, but beyond the pages lies something even greater: the journey. The long nights, the countless rewrites, the moment when doubt whispers and passion shouts back louder. This is where authors share their truth, the struggles, the breakthroughs, and the moments that made them believe in their story.
If you love a great story or dream of writing your own, you're in the right place.
Because every book has a voice, every author has a tale, and the best stories, they don't just get told, they get lived.
This is Author's Tales, where stories come to life. Good morning, Devin. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to dive into your connection expansion. And one of the things that we know is that a lot of people don't even know how to make a connection. So I am so happy that you wrote this book. It's like a blueprint, isn't it?
It's everything you need. I didn't hold anything back. I tried to give the keys to the castle all in a very quick, easy to read book.
Yeah, it is very easy to read, easy to follow, but the book is so not only just easy, but if you follow it, connections will happen, right?
Yeah, it's a proven system. That's the other thing worth noting. 700 clients later, the system
Mm.
works. And we just wanted to bottle that up into a book so that we could share it with more people. And, the book's a great vehicle to do that. And like I said, we're always refining and optimizing, but everything you need is in the book. This isn't one of those, hey, go here for more info. Like you can go get more templates if you want, but what you need is in the book.
Mm. I love the connection expansion. You talk about the exercises that dramatically increase the number of connections, but not every connection is going to be the best connection unless you make the effort. Is that true?
100%. Yeah. Core principle number 5 is train by doing. And a lot of people want more referrals, want more connections, want people to open doors for them, but they don't actually want to do the work to do it for others. But if you don't pave the way by showing people how to do what you want, you're not going to receive what you actually want. So, it's got to be the golden rule or the platinum rule, right? Like treat others the way you want to be treated or treat them better, right? You got to do it first. And so the connection expansion exercise allows you to do that easier, and it allows other
Mm.
people to do it easier too. Because when we talk about connections and I say, hey, Joe, I want to meet blank, and I give you my ideal client profile, what happens is you naturally start to narrow your database down to this very select few people that you think might be a perfect fit for my ideal client. And then you have to introduce them
Mm.
to me with the intent of them being sold. All of those things create friction. And
Right.
so the connection expansion exercise allows us to flip that. So instead of asking for that ideal client, what we're asking for is the people who have access to our ideal clients. And so if I say, hey, Joe, I want to meet business CPAs, it's a great strategic conversation. Instantly, Joe's like, oh, well, I know some CPAs. Boom. Instantly, he knows who I'm talking about. And then there's no friction in making a connection because it's strategic in nature. So it makes it easier for Joe to open the door and make connections to me. And because of that, that's why this exercise is critical. So if you got to make connections, you have to make it easy. And if you want to receive connections, you have to make it easy. This exercise unlocks both sides of that.
I love that. When we're making connections, are we just handing a business card? Is that enough?
No, so you've got to, I call it the 3 E's. So when you're
Mm.
making connections for other people, you want to edify, endorse, and explain. And
Mm.
so I love email introductions because it gives you the right platform to do this. And I can say, hey, Bob, I want you to meet Joe, right? And then when I'm explaining who Joe is, I'm going to edify and endorse him. Joe's the best because here's why I think you should meet him. And then I'm going to explain, you guys should connect because. And then I'm going to go to the next person. I'm going to say, hey, here's who they are. Here's why they're a rock star. Then I'm going to explain why I'm connecting. What that does is it makes it really easy for both parties to understand the connection and book a meeting. And that's what we're chasing. We want to get on a meeting with someone and have a conversation because that's where we see what's possible. Again, so often people mess all this up because they just default to selling. And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about connecting. We're talking about getting into meetings. We're talking about building a database and a CRM and a network that will react when you ask it to do something.
Connections, the proper connections can build wealth, don't they?
So the subtitle for the book, right? You're one connection away from massive success in your life and business. That's what we believe. That's what I believe. That's what I preach. I think it's a volume game because you want more connections coming in. You need to meet more people, but it only takes one. It takes one perfect connection to a person you likely didn't know exists, that has value you likely don't fully understand yet, but they open something up for you that's really dynamic, right? They invite you to speak at their mastermind. They joint venture with you. They partner. There's all these opportunities. But again, if you're just focused on the sale, you miss opportunities instead of getting these joint venture projects. And that's what we're chasing, is what are those strategic connections that 10x your business or 100x your business?
You did mention the growth of the business, your business, and it's based on connections. So is that old-fashioned saying, which is, I believe is still true today, sometimes it's who you know and who knows you, right?
It's all your network. I have a list. We could reference this, actually. This is great. I have a list in the book of what if statements. Let me pull those up.
Sure. I got the book right here. What page is that?
Yeah, I don't usually pull that. I don't usually reference that one, but it's good for this moment. So page 27, 28. I've got some what if statements in here, and I put these in here because I wanted people to understand what's possible. Because whether you're a college student or a billionaire, the what if statements are relevant, right? So like, what if you never had to market for an open position? What if you could launch a business for 50% of the cost in 50% of the time? What if you could save money and have better experiences while traveling? What if you were invited to invite-only opportunities? What if you could get a six-figure job without having to compete? What if you can secure an ideal internship? What if you could find an attorney, get them on the call, and have them react to your case in 24 hours? And what if you never had to search for providers again? Like, these are just samples, right, of the what if statement.
Wow.
But these are all the things that clients, myself, have experienced by having a network that will react. So no matter what comes at you, you can get whatever you need whenever you need it, just by tapping into your current network. And that's what I want people to truly access, is whatever you need, whether it's personal or business, you can lean into your current network and it will produce whatever that is.
I love meeting people. I go to events. I'm a professional speaker as well, so I get to meet people at events. And I don't say I have to meet people. I get to. I feel blessed when I do, right? And I'm sure you do as well. But a lot of times I go to events and I reach back out to people and they either don't answer, they don't do anything. What's the process, the exact follow-up process that you would like to share with some people that will change that?
Yeah, so the messaging we use, and this will be a disclaimer because we're going to share messages, probably a lot, different templates and ways to reach out. Don't change them. So let me give that disclaimer. People like to kind of format these into their own language. These have been tried, true, proven, and they work. And so you don't need to mess with them. So when we follow up from events, whether it's a virtual event, an in-person event, it doesn't matter. That's another thing too. The system works whether you're doing virtual meetings or in-person meetings. The follow-up email is exactly the same, right? Hey, Amy, it was great meeting you at the chamber event yesterday or wherever you were. I enjoyed briefly learning about you and your business. I'd love to schedule a time to learn more about you and your business so that I can better make connections for you. Here's a link to my calendar. Insert your calendar link. I look forward to connecting with you. So assumptive close that you're going to connect with them. Nothing in my email has to do with who I am, what I sell, why I'm amazing. It has nothing to do with me because the other person, frankly, doesn't give a crap, right?
Right,
What they
right,
care about is they care about what
right.
are you going to do for them. And so if you
Mm,
think about the networking event, most people aren't going to follow up. So the fact that you send an email in 24, 48, 72 hours, you're already ahead. The next thing is if you follow up with how you're going to add value to them and invite them to a meeting that's about them, it makes it very easy for people to lean in. The other thing this does is it allows you to follow up forever. Because as long as we don't go into
mm,
sales mode, and I call this commission breath, right? So as long as we don't slip into trying to sell or provide features and benefits, what we can do is follow up forever. And so this is where we get into the follow up 5 times every 3 business days, follow up 4 times every 7 business days. And then they go into your nurture cycle, which is the one of the last chapters in the book, and you follow up forever. And so what's great about that process is as long as we're others focused, not only do we get permission to follow up, we get permission to follow up forever. And
mm.
that is what unlocks the power because I don't benchmark my success based on whether you book a meeting. I benchmark my success on did I get a bunch of people's contact info? Did I put them into my system and follow the process? And did I follow the process to the end? Because that's what I can control. Most
Right.
people benchmark their success based on the outcomes, right? Did I close a deal? Did I book the meeting? You can't benchmark your success on that because I can't make you book a meeting. I can't make you write a check. What I can do is I can control the inputs and how I manage the process. If I do that in enough volume with the right language, the outputs have to happen.
Right. Yeah. And I just want to share with everybody, this is the book that we're definitely talking about. Look at this beautiful, think about all the connections that you can make. Everybody, I recommend you buy this book, get this book. Here's the QR code that you can click on it right now. Take your phone out, click on it, and get the book. Because everything that Devin is talking about is going to get you to the best connections you can possibly do. Here's a question for you, Devin. I meet 20, 30 people. I go to an event. Even if it's 500 people, I can't talk to 500 people, but I make quality connections. Do I have to spend all day reaching out to these people? Don't I have a busy life? Well, how do I do it? What's going on? I know you have templates. Talk to us about that, my friend.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, for most people, when they're starting, you can manage the process and the system yourself. We're
Mm,
usually not talking high volume. We're usually talking spurts of high volume. So, maybe you just went to a networking event or you just spoke on stage. And so, maybe there's this quick moment of like, oh, I have to put 20, 30 people through a process. The
right.
good part, though, is everything we do can be managed by a VA because it's all templates. So you're not trying to add custom language. You're not trying to do anything special. And so what it allows is I can literally take pictures of business cards and drop them in my Slack chat to my team. And before I'm home, my team can have them in the CRM, in the process,
Mm,
and all the emails sent. And we're just managing the process. And so
wow.
what's great about it is the process works. And as long as you just follow the process, your team can work it for you. So
Mm,
sometimes I'll do first follow up just because I like to connect on LinkedIn and send some messages and do some other stuff. But beyond that, my team does everything. They send the follow up emails to schedule a meeting. After a meeting, they send the thank you email. After that, they send the connection check in email. After that, they send the nurture emails. And then I get the responses, right? Because they're coming out of my inbox, they're coming into my inbox, but I'm not actually the one hitting send. My team is hitting send using the templates.
right.
And so as you scale this system, right, it will create work, right? It'll create volume, which is what
Mm,
you want. And when you create volume and you go, oh, I don't have enough time to manage this, great. A VA can manage it for you. Until then, you totally can manage it. If you're only going to be following up with like a handful of people every day, you can more than manage the system yourself.
right, right. And you talked about a VA. For anybody, I'm sure most of everybody out there in the world has understands what a VA does. Would you be able to explain now what a VA does? Because they're all over the world. I mean, it's literally because of the internet, we have access to people at all times, right? So would you mind
Yeah.
explaining that quickly?
Yeah, so virtual assistants are great. You could also call them admin assistants or, administrators or whatever you want to call them. The goal is they're managing your back office busy work, right? That
Mhm.
you shouldn't have to do as a highly leveraged person, right? So as a business owner, a salesperson, at some point you want to create more leverage, right? So you lean into them. The fun part about having a system that's scalable and duplicatable is you can hire just about anyone because all they're using is templates. So they don't have to create language. They don't have to craft emails. They don't have to do anything other than log in, look at the task list, send the emails, reschedule the tasks, move on. And so this system is something you can totally automate with a human. I don't recommend automating it with a funnel because there are moments that you need to pay attention to that sometimes that automation, if not done perfect, will make you look silly.
Yeah, yeah. So you talk about templates. Talk to us about how you help people understand that you have information on here, but how can they go further? Do you help them understand the back end? Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, if anything we're talking about is interesting, obviously grab a copy of the book because it's going to give you
Mm,
the kind of foundation to the system. The next step would be to lean into my school community, which is ACES Connections Group. It's connectionexpansion.com. It's free. And in
mhm,
there, we will help connect you with amazing people. There's some good resources. And then if you really want to lean in, like if you want the strategy, the support, the how do we build this out, the debrief of meetings, ACES has an inner circle that is a monthly subscription, and you get access to me for weekly office hours. You get all sorts of other
mm,
stuff, including deep courses and all sorts of things that, again, just elevate what you're doing. And so, yes, there's lots of ways to lean in. So if you're looking for connections, the free school community is great. It's a great place to
mm,
start. If you're looking for strategic help to actually lean in and implement this and scale it into your company or into your team, there's a level you can lean into for that as well. You can check my YouTube channel. There's a
mm.
couple webinars on there. The website has resource. Like there's ample additional resources. So if you want to lean in, you can. And yes, if you want some strategic help, we're obviously here to help you as well and make sure that the system works for you specifically.
I this next question came from what you just said. Why would somebody want to lean in on this process?
Yeah.
And
So
how do you actually help them lean in, and what's their benefit to doing so?
yeah, it's the number one benefit to leaning in is holding yourself accountable.
Mm,
Often, when people start walking down this path, there's some things that you're going to start to see. You're going to start to see one, you have to stop selling, which is so weird as someone who's trying to generate revenue. Like we have
right.
to really focus on adding value to others. We have to focus
Mm,
on connecting with everyone. We have to focus on not judging. Like there's some things that we naturally do because we're trying to chase the deal, which makes sense. Totally get it. However, when we're leaning into this process, you have to hold yourself accountable. You need someone you can lean back into and say, "Hey, Devin, like I sent the emails, I booked the meetings, I had the meetings, but now, like good example from last week, I had a client reach out and say, like, look, I've had half a dozen meetings, but I'm not getting anything. Okay,
mm,
great. Let's lean into the process, right? From those meetings, how many connections did you make, and did you send a thank you, nice to meet you email? Well, no, they just said they'd send me stuff. Okay, so core principle number 5 was train by doing. So you already messed up core principle number 5. So let's get back to train by doing, right? So you need to train by doing. If you want connections, again, make connections, right? I had them also send, another client send me a thing saying, hey, I saw this introduction you made. I don't understand. Like, isn't that a
mm,
competitive person or like they're not going to care? How should I follow up with them? Okay, well, this goes to 2 of the core
mm,
principles. There's value in every relationship, never judge a connection. They go hand in hand. And so all I did is reply to the 2 core principles. I said, look, I don't approach any meeting different. Every single meeting I take, I approach exactly the same. I'm going to have the meeting the exact same way. I'm going to ask the exact same questions. It'll be the exact same outcome. Because again, if I get back to the core principles, it does me no good to make assumptions. It does me no good to try to pre-plan how the conversation is going to go. None of that's beneficial. What I can do is show up and control it. And so the reason you want to lean in is when you start walking down this path, it's a very different path.
Mm,
And if you
right.
want to get the most out of the meetings you're going to book, the most out of your current database, you want to lean in. And so that's why the first group helps, because you can connect with other members, you can listen to expert interviews, you can hop on my Connection Blitz meetings and meet some people. Like the goal is just to get you connecting. Then if you want to lean in and figure out how do I optimize it, implement it, scale it, do it, debrief it, yes, there's a place for that where you can ask anything. There's no dumb question, because you probably haven't done any of this in the way we're talking about. So lean in, ask the questions,
Mm,
and let me help you build something that's going to scale forever. Because once you build this system and you implement it for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, the system will perpetuate itself in a way where hopefully you never have to cold call again. Your marketing can scale down dramatically, and you can continue to grow in a much more comfortable and aligned way.
mm, love it. Devin, how on earth did you even come up with this whole system? I mean, it's so defined and precise. I'm sure you went through trial and error, but what was the catalyst for you to say, "Wow, look what I have in front of me. I cannot believe this gold mine that I've created." How did that come about?
Yeah. So when I had my marketing agency, which I call my first like big or real business, I
Mm,
had a lot of small business things before that. And when I went into that, it was a crowded marketplace that was super noisy and it was very cutthroat. And
mm,
so luckily I had a mentor who explained like you need to become an authority and you need to be visible. And so we attended everything, we branded ourselves, right? Just like we do with our shirts now. And we were everywhere and we spoke and we did all the things we do now. But then I would default to selling. Like I would just be like qualifying prospects and then
mm,
booking with prospects and then selling prospects. And I went, okay, well, that works, but like, why not just meet with everybody? Right. Because what I started to find is when I met everybody and I started to figure out how to have those conversations and how to add value, I started to get access to things that none of my competitors had access to because they were only focused on selling. And so it just started stacking on itself with like, okay, what questions do we ask when networking to have good, quick conversations where I can get your information? What email template do we send that has the highest probability of booking a meeting? What is the frequency and cadence to book the meeting? Once I book the meeting, how do I have a meeting where I learn enough information to figure out where there is potential value beyond you being a customer?
mm,
Once I have the meeting, how do I follow up to train you, to give me connections, to add value to you, and to provide a situation where when I want to cash in, right? When I want to ask you for something, whether it's my product, service, a connection, or something else, you respond because you feel like I've already provided a ton of value. And then how do I nurture you forever so that you're always aware of what Devin's doing, where Devin's at, how Devin's playing? And so what we started to find is it gets back to the control that you can control. We started to realign activity based on the parts of the sales and marketing process we can control. And then we started to optimize each of those to generate the most results. And by
mm,
results, what we mean is the most meetings, right? Because if you have a full calendar, it means you have full opportunity, and then getting the most out of it. So even if you don't buy, if I know that if I make 3 connections for you, you're going to return 1, which is the average, it's about 3-to-1 ratio, then it just becomes a game. How many meetings can I book? How many connections can I make? And if I do that properly, I will in return have you build my network for me.
mm.
And then my calendar is always full and the cycle just perpetuates itself. And so now we live in a world where we receive more than 1,000 inbound connections a year, right? We make more than 2,000-3,000 a year. And inside of that, yes, there are huge joint venture opportunities. There are perfectly aligned referral clients. There are podcast interviews, events, mastermind invitations to speak. There's so much packed into there because
Mm.
of how we build our network. And so that's how it came to be. I just started figuring out, how do I do this different? And how do I do it in a way where, again, I'm controlling the pieces I can control in an optimized way that generates the biggest output.
Wow, powerful. I have a friend of mine who uses a concept of connections, and celebrities and billionaires and so forth go to him when they need something that no one else can get them because he has all the right connections. And everything you're talking about is so powerful. And this guy is multimillionaire because he knows the right people. So people seek him out if they want to go to an event, have a venue. Even he set up a dinner for a couple who paid him a lot of money to have a private dinner in front of the statue of David. And when somebody can create, and everybody's wondering, how on earth did he do that? And it's real. Everything you've been talking about is how he was able to do it through the connections that he has. So his Rolodex is huge. When we are talking about, and some people are like, what's a Rolodex nowadays? Your phone. Just put it into your phone, your contacts, right? Your contacts. How do we keep up with all the contacts? Do we touch base? Maybe, we become friends. We've seen each other here and there. Do we touch base once a month, every 2-3 months, every 6 months? How do we keep that connection alive? So in case we ever do need their services or we need something from them without sounding bad, how do we do that?
Yeah, great. It's again another good question. Let's go back to unlocking the amazing things, right? I want to hit that for a second because what your friend is doing is what the ideal outcome is for anyone that uses the system, right? I can't tell you how many trips. Matter of fact, I'm going to Dallas this week to record a TV episode that you can't be on unless you're invited, and that was from a connection. I'm going to Vegas to keynote at a youth conference through a connection. I'm going to 2 really big events for one of my clients to do some sales and marketing for them, both referred from connections. And we ended up with better sponsorships, better packages. Went to Mexico last year, pennies on the dollar, because someone I was connected to said, hey, someone dropped out. I know you like to travel. You guys want to come? I think the total trip cost me like $1,000 because everything was covered. Like everything, so it's also possible, right? And that's what I want people to understand. Is what's possible. So now let's get to nurture. So I send the same nurture email. Matter of fact, I have friends that have received this email for a decade. You can send it every 30, 45, 60, 90 days. You can kind of pick your cadence. I find 6 weeks tends to be just about right for most people. So we usually default to that, but you can kind of decide based on the importance of the relationship if you want. Again, we just default to 6 weeks. This is the email template. Again, it's in the book, but I'll just share it here. The email template is, hey, Bob, I hope you're doing well and having a great day. It's been a while since we last connected. Anything new and exciting in your world? Any new challenges? Please let me know what connections I can make for you. I look forward to hearing back from you. So that's the standard just check-in. Occasionally, I'll add a sentence. Like if my calendar's not full, that says, hey, it's been a while, right? Let's catch back up. Here's a link to my calendar. So I'll invite them to take a meeting. So if you're in a slow season and you're sending these check-in emails, you just add that sentence and then it starts to fill your calendar back up so that you're again creating momentum. That email is great because what you're doing is you're asking them about them. You're asking how you can help them, right? Again, it's all about them again. It has nothing to do with, hey, this is the new fancy thing I'm selling, or hey, this is the new whatever. It's truly just asking about them. What happens is the majority of people will reply and say like, oh, thanks for checking in. This is what's new. This is what's going on. You know what? I do have this problem. And the more they trust you, the more they're going to share. Like, I have this problem. Do you know anyone? Yeah, I do. So now you can make a connection. Now you start the process over. Occasionally, you're going to get people, and this will happen on the first email and this email. You're going to have people reply and say like, I keep receiving this email. Take me off your list. Hey, thanks so much for replying. That was the goal of the email. I'm so glad to hear from you. What's new in your world? And then they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, did you not read the email? Like, I'm not selling you anything. I truly am asking, how can I help you? If you don't want help, no worries. It's okay. Help's not for everybody. But like, there's no catch, right? And so it's the same with the first email. When you send that first email to book the meeting, occasionally you're going to have people like, well, what's the catch? There's no catch. Let's get together, right? Let's chat. Let's get to know each other and let's see where there's opportunity. And yeah, if you need my product or service, maybe we'll discover that that's a true statement. I may need yours. Maybe that's a true statement. Maybe neither are, and we just become friends. It doesn't matter.
Mm.
Let's just have a conversation. And so that's how we nurture long term. We send the same email. Again, we don't really mess with it or adjust it. And what we find is it's about the 30% ratio too. Of all the emails we send out in a given month, 30% will reply. And then that gives us a chance to re-engage conversations, reignite things, connect some dots, or find more value.
Oh, I love that. That's a great template because it asks them questions, open-ended questions, not like a yes or no, and more of the impact of how can I help? And I love the what's new in your world, what's new in your life, and then the last one is how can I help? Right? I think that a lot of people, and you said it earlier, people are looking to sell, they're not looking to connect because I think a connection. What happens when we get a connection that lasts, right? Especially if you're selling a product, right? Aren't they going to refer more people to you?
100%. I'll give you a real example. I just booked it. The email just came in like this morning, so I replied to it. I was referred to a lady because she hosted an event and one of my clients wanted to sponsor. So we met, we had a great conversation. I made connections, followed the process, nurtured. My client decided not to sponsor the event. No problem, right? That happens. They didn't like the budget to return ratio. It was kind of
Mhm.
wrong timing. Okay, no big deal. But I just continued to nurture, right? And I set one of my nurtures to right after her event just to check in with her and see how it goes. She replied, and then her reply sounded something like this: "Thanks for the connections. Really appreciated it. The event was awesome. We traded a couple emails back and forth. She asked what I was looking for. I said, you know, what I'm looking for is mastermind hosts because I love to do joint ventures with mastermind hosts and add value to their audience to teach their members how to grow their networks, which if they make more money, makes it easier for your mastermind." She then replied and said, "Oh, I'm scaling my mastermind back up. Here's how many people I have in it. Could you guest speak?" And I was like, "I would love to. I'd love to come and
Mhm.
present your mastermind virtually. We just booked it for August. And so now I'll be presenting at her mastermind." Great. Like that's
Yeah.
a perfect outcome, but that's 6 months of nurturing, right? Most people would never get there because they would have given up on the process. Again,
Mhm.
we're just going to check in because I don't know what's possible. Plus, I don't know who in my network needs what when. And so I'd rather just continue to nurture and grow people so that when you ask me for something crazy, I can go, "Oh, you know what? I met someone recently. Let me connect you." Right. And that's the goal, right? Like I want people to get in there. I have one client that has booked in for June. They booked one big event. They booked a JV promotion with a huge email list, 250K email list blast. They booked two guest webinar presentations,
Mm.
all from just connections.
Wow.
And so again, like, are you going to get those things from cold calling? Maybe. Are you going to get
Mhm.
those things from trying to door knock? Probably not, because
Yeah.
people aren't going to take you serious. But when you're connected and you're, again, the 3 E's, right? You're edified, endorsed, and I explain why we're connecting, they'll take a meeting. When you're in a meeting, then you can explore, hey, you know what? I think I can add value to your audience. Hey, you know what? There is a great JV partnership here. Hey, there is a lot we could do together. Great.
Mm.
And it only takes one of those. One good partnership could add half a dozen clients to your pipeline a month.
Oof.
One partnership. If you had 50 of them, that's even better.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I always like telling people is you never know who they know, right? So when you make that connection, you might be automatically connected to 200 of their best clients or their best friends or whatever it is. But you never know. Like you got invited to Mexico, right? Pennies on the dollar because somebody reached out and they said, "Hey, we need another person to fill this spot." Same reason you've gotten so many different opportunities to speak on stages and masterminds, and likewise here. When we think of connections, there has to be relationship wise connections, right? More of what's in it for them instead of what it's in it for me, right? And I know you said that, but can you go a little deeper into that if you don't mind?
Yeah, so it's interesting. We test AI a lot, and it's something that's relevant to this process. And
Mm.
one way we use it, and this is something anyone could do, You could take your transcript from a meeting, right? So if you're recording your meetings or using Fathom or something to get a transcript, you could put it into GPT and say, hey, look at this conversation and tell me if I built a relationship. Because what happens is so often people put the transcript in and they ask, like, did I miss an opportunity to sell them? Oh, geez, perfect, great. Like, keep fine tuning your persuasive language to close someone. Great. But again, in connection meetings, we're not trying to do that. We're trying to build a relationship. And so when we talk about building a relationship, there's a key moment in our process which will tell you if you're building a relationship quick and early. And so when I go through the connection meeting template, I always start with, what do you do? Who are you serving? We go to, how did you get here? So I want to hear the past. We go to, where are you going? So we talk about the future. I want to vision cast. I want to hear your dreams. I want to hear what's possible. I want to really celebrate that with you. Then I want to talk about the challenges. If I did the rest of the conversation correct and you feel heard and you feel like we're building a relationship, when I ask you for challenges, you're going to share real challenges, real things that are pissing you off and keeping you up at night. You're going to bear it all. You're going to be like, Devin, you know what? Yeah, I do have challenges. And they're going to tell me the things that are burning. That's the moment in the connection meeting where you know, have I asked them enough questions? Have I listened? Have I taken notes? Have I done my part? Because if you get to the challenges and they're like, yeah, you know, we're just struggling to get some clients. That's BS. That's not a real answer, right? That tells me you have not asked deep enough questions. You haven't listened. You've probably talked about yourself too much. You've probably been trying to sell. When I get to challenges, people tell me everything, right? Quickly, like I'm their best friend. That's because, again, we're so relationship focused on them, their journey, their story, celebrating them, right? So when they talk about where they're going, yes, that's amazing. Hell yeah, I want you to have that impact. That's great. Now, what's in your way? This, great. Now I can provide resources and connections to solve real problems, right? Not just general connections, which we'll still do. And so that's one benchmark we have of like, are we building real relationships, right? I shared a text message last week after I made some connections, right? And the text message said basically something that said, you know, there's 6 billion people in the world. I consider you my inner 20. I've had 3 conversations with this person, but that's because I listened and I made connections that fundamentally unlocked their future potential. And this is a very successful person worth hundreds of million, but a couple of those connections were so good that he went, you get me. Like, you get what we're trying to do, right? So this is what we're trying to accomplish. But again, use AI, take that transcript and ask it, did I build a relationship and how could I have done better? And then see what it has to say. What we're finding is it's a pretty good coach at telling you, like, dude, you talked about yourself too much. You didn't comment that, hey, I love the color of your shirt, or hey, what's that statue behind you? I'd love you to tell me that story, because if it's behind you, there's a reason. Like, it'll give you some of those things where it's like, you didn't ask enough questions, right? And that's what we're looking for, is how do we build quick relationships? And again, that's a good benchmark moment.
Oof, love that. Building benchmark moments, I think it's important, because then you can start to, without being crude, you can categorize each connection, right? Would you mind if I share something with you? Everybody just take a quick look here.
Yeah, let's do it.
You followed the rules, tried the restrictions, counted the carbs, the steps, and the failures. You're not lazy, you're exhausted from doing it all without real change. What if the problem isn't you, but the plan? Sifu's Mind Body Method is a 90-day transformation built on 7 unshakable pillars: mindset, movement, nutrition, hydration, fasting, journaling, and faith. This isn't another shortcut. It's your structure, your strength, your reset. You don't need harder, you need better. Ready to begin? Start today. I got to tell you, I was looking at that video that I just played, and I'm like, wait a minute. This is everything you're talking about. Maybe it's not the plan, or maybe it's not you, it's the plan. You're not doing this correctly. You're not doing the outreach correctly. I am loving this conversation, Devin, because you're building the fundamentals of what true business really should be: connections. The sales come from every single connection, right? Would you talk to us about your website, which we have coming across the bottom? What can people expect when they go to your website to connect with you? I know they can buy the book, and everybody should get this book, by the way, because guess what? This book may cost you a lot if you think of it the wrong way. If it costs you 20 bucks, that's a steal. This book, if you read it properly, is going to make you thousands, if not millions, if you use it properly. If you connect with Devin, you can unlock something, a great potential inside you or your business that will really devastate where you are today. But you need to take the action. You need to follow through. And we talked about following through. So when you make a connection, you have to follow through. So tell us about what somebody can expect when they go to your website.
Yeah, so connectionexpansion.com, it's on the screen. It's going to take you to my website, which is actually devinsizemore.com. The best place to play is to join the school community. Again, that's where you're going to start the momentum. But again, there's resources, there's testimonials. I have some extra presentations on there. All the other podcasts I've done are on there. And some go deeper on different parts of this, the psychology, the mental wherewithal, the business best practice. Again, I've owned lots of companies, so there's a lot of business resources on there too. I just want to add value. That's core principle number one. And so we try to do that everywhere that we can, to make sure that, again, we're always adding value. My team, even over the weekend, we sat here troubleshooting one of our offers and went, man, that's the wrong offer. Because again, it's not, we want to overwhelm you with value. Like when you opt into something that we offer, I want you to be like, oh my God, I have to pay for this forever because there's so much value. And so I try to explain that, like, that's what we're here for with people, is we just want to add value. So lean in everywhere, ask your questions. You can schedule jump onto a connection blitz, which is a great way to meet me one-on-one, meet other people I'm meeting, and meet some of our community members. So it's a great quick networking, and a great way for me to connect with you. That link's on my website, that link's everywhere else as well. So it's just looking forward to connecting, having conversations, and making more connections with those who are listening.
Nice. What's one connection that you had that really impacted you in a huge way?
Yeah, it's such a good question, and it's such a hard question to answer because I get so many inbound connections. One that's been really, really interesting. There's two. I'm going to reference two, and they were both very slow burns, and so I think this is what's important. So there's a bunch of books behind me because one of my biggest clients is $1 Million Author. And so we help people write, publish, and promote books. And I was introduced to Steve, the owner of that company, years ago, just as a connection. Hey, you guys should chat. You're serving a lot of the same people. We had a great conversation. I nurtured, made some connections. Nothing really happened. Neither of us really did much more than just open some doors, but continued to nurture. Then he donated a bunch of books and a service, like a whole package, to a nonprofit. I went, that's amazing. I love that. Well, I ended up buying the package. Like there were some bids on it, but I went, you know what? I want to write a book. This is what led to me writing a book. So I ended up being a client. Then we ended up doing a joint venture. Then we ended up doing some branding. Then we ended up opening doors for each other. Now I've worked with 70 of his authors. All of that took years to marinate, years of nurturing. Another one was a mastermind host. I was introduced to this mastermind host through a connection. It was like a 7-deep connection.
Wow.
And I went, you know what? It is right timing. I do want to opt into your program. So it turned into a sales meeting. I went through the program. I had to leave the program. We had a kind of personal moment that I took almost a year off to just reset. And we still were friends. I still nurtured him through the time in the process. I was just at his mastermind in Palm Springs. I facilitated day 2 of his 3-day mastermind for all of his members, which led to some clients, led to some amazing friendships. Again, I didn't know that was going to come from that relationship. We just nurture. And now we make referrals for each other. We're brand ambassadors for each other. Like we
Mm,
just love what the impact both of us are having in the world, and it works. But again,
mm.
that's years old relationship. I'll share a third bonus one. I'm going to lunch today with someone I met 10 years ago at a BNI meeting, random BNI networking meeting. So local network 10 years ago. Through that process, we've been business partners. I've done sales consulting for 2 of the companies he's been at. We've probably shared 100 referrals back and forth minimum.
Mm.
This one person I met at a random BNI meeting, right? So I want you guys to play the long game, because the long game is where you win.
Yeah, I love it. Everybody, here's the QR code. Pick yourself up the book. And this is the book. But do the most important thing. Go to connectionexpansion.com, and you're going to get so much value that I'm going to be going there. I'm going to be checking things out. And I am glad that you and I, my friend, are connected. And sometimes it's a third party that introduces somebody, but then it's up to us to nurture that connection, right?
You got to control what you can control, right? And so make sure you follow up, make sure you follow through. It's no different, right? You can hear all this information. What are you going to do with it? You got to take action at some point, because that's the part you can control.
Love it. Devin, thank you so much for being on Author's Tales. What a phenomenal book. What a phenomenal guy you are, making all these connections worldwide. And it's gotten easier to make connections, right? Especially if you go on Zooms and this, you can actually have a meeting with somebody, even if you met them at an event and they live across the country, you can still stay connected, right?
It's so much easier. There's no excuses. Just get people on your calendar and have some real conversations with real people.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, my friend. Have yourself an exceptional rest of the day. Everybody, do me a favor. What a great show. Great tips. Incredible content. Do me a favor. Share the show with everyone. Somebody maybe needs to hear this. Somebody who needs to make a connection. This is another way to connect with somebody. Say, hey, look at this great show I just saw. You need to see it too. Devin spoke volumes. This is what we need to do. So use this show to make a connection. How's that sound? All right, everybody. Have yourself a blessed day. Devin, hang on for a minute. Everybody, take care. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching Author's Tales. Stay updated and meet new authors. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Sifu Raphael TV. Follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn, and visit our website. Your support means the world to us.